Welcome to episode 5 of Do It Yourself Survival Shelter, where we are building a massive bomb shelter, roughly 1,500-ish square feet. So if you want to be a survivor like John Connor in the Terminator movie series fighting back against the AI apocalypse, go ahead and follow, because we're going to be teaching you and showing you how to build a massive underground bomb shelter pretty much by yourself. So today we are going to be building a form for the foundation. Those are 2 by 12 by 12, so we decided to go with a 12-inch foundation on this bad boy. I figure it's better to go a little bit overboard than underboard. We're also going to be running pink rebar all through it. I tried to get 20-foot sections of it. We opted to go with 10-foot sections because the 20-foot sections of it, the shipping on it was absolutely prohibitive. I mean, it was $1,500 to ship roughly 1,000 pounds of the pink rebar. And that was just kind of unreal. So I figure I'll go and raid all the local box stores for their 10-foot sections and just do twice as much work for half as much cost. Now with that, we are going to be building this bad boy. I've watched several YouTube videos on it, but I've never done this in my life. So if I can do this competently and it not collapse in the first couple years, then you should be able to do it, learning from my mistakes, etc., etc. Now I have a bunch of tools here to do it. Bought a bunch of concrete caps, ties, things of that nature. I'm probably gonna have to run back and forth the Lowe's a few times, but the most important ingredient is right there. The Bubba. He's gonna be helping me out building this bad boy. This has been a team project so far, me and the boy. The rest of the family has helped out, and we are trying to do all this stuff together because we believe in the value of learning all this stuff so that we are more competent people. So stay tuned, we'll show you how to do it. After getting everything set up, we pretty much started the day off with one heck of a savage workout. We had to shovel out and haul out several hundred pounds of dirt to where in a couple places the walls had gotten brittle after it rained and dried out. Luckily, I am still in the prime of my manhood and still in shape because I work out constantly, and the boy is, well, a boy and pretty much has unlimited energy. So we knocked that out in 10 or 15 minutes and then got started with the project form. What I had done is I had went up to my workshop and gathered a whole bunch of old oak and old wood that I didn't really have a use for anymore. That was too torn up for me to use in any kind of nicer project. And I was cutting it into pieces so that I could join the larger 2 by 12 by 12 together in order to make the form. What I'm doing there is making enough for all of those different pieces and then some, because I figure if I screw anything up, it's better to have extras. My general strategy in doing something that I've never done before is just to start it and figure it out. I go by the old George S. Patton quote of an ounce of action is worth more than a ton of theory. So what we started doing here is just laying out the planks, seeing how many we could get per side. I'd already done the math, but I figured it would help to be able to visualize it. It was right around this moment is when I started making my first mistake. I had measured out exactly how long I wanted the foundation to be, but I forgot to accommodate for the sides of the walls that would require me to make the foundation roughly a foot wider than the actual structure itself, so I could run some concrete walls up it later. So what me and the boy did is we cut the wood exactly the length and the width that we thought it should be, and afterwards realized it, and then was very glad that when I went to Lowe's I picked up an extra 2 by 12 so that I could correct the mistake I made. I do boneheaded crap like that fairly regularly, and I've started to account for my boneheadedness whenever I'm planning for adventures and projects like this just by buying about 10% extra stuff. I cannot tell you how many times I've left my military boots at home when I was going to the gym before work, or left my hat somewhere. You know, people are just different, and for whatever reason I just forget things. And it's kind of a family trait because My kids forget things, and then I holler at them about it, and then I remember, well, I forget stuff all the time, so it's hard for me to fall. Danger Mama comes down here. She's asking me if I want coffee and water, and of course the answer to that question is yes. She'd usually be helping out more than she is, but we had friends in town, so she had to kind of go entertain them. With all of the pieces spliced together, that length there was about 41 or 42 feet. It's pretty dang heavy for just me and the boy to maneuver so easily. So you'll see here in a moment, my dad actually shows up, and of course, he's at the age where he's been doing this stuff for literally decades and knows what the heck he's doing. So he came down to supervise and offer advice. The rest of the fam and our friend from out of town came. She is the resident German, and now that she's been in the project, we can say this was helped and engineered by a German, and therefore the property value should go up, commensurately by at least $50,000 or $60,000. How they're famous for their engineering abilities. We had to dig out that wall you see there. Digging out that wall was due to it being about a foot too shallow in that section, and it was bowing the wood out, so we couldn't quite make it square. Digging out that amount of dirt and hauling it up the ramp and then dumping it out was more tedious than it looks. The dirt was kind of wet, and due to the nature of it being wet, that made that little wagon extremely heavy. So we hauled several loads of dirt out in order to make that section square, and it was quite the workout. As you can see here, we're trying to get it finally laid out precisely. It was quite the challenge, and thankfully I had a few adults helping me out here.
So we're sitting here with the whole fam. Everybody say hi.
Hi. Hi.
All 7 of us plus the 2 wretched dogs. All 7 plus the 2 wretched dogs. What we are going to do is we are going to level the form now. The form down there needs to be level, and I'm going to employ all the kids and the fam to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to gather up the abundance of rocks we have around, and we're going to use those to level it. So while the kids are putting in some good old-fashioned manual labor, the wife and I are going to be down there making sure everything is square, etc., etc. So we got a nice even base to do. So let's do it. Y'all excited?
Yeah. Yay. Which rocks?
Good times.
That's inch plus thick oak that I ran a bunch of 3-inch screws through. It doesn't look overly sturdy, but by the time I put the rocks in to backfill it as well as put the braces around it, it will be plenty resilient enough to keep the concrete from bowing the whole form out. At this point in the day, the boy had had enough. He had been working for hours and he was worn out. So I told him to come down in the hole with me and let his sisters gather up rocks and bring him to the bottom of the slope. He just couldn't handle it anymore. He was up there battling with them and fighting with them. As this progresses through here, you'll see that the girls actually do a pretty dang good job of gathering up rocks and bringing them to the bottom. And as they brought them to the bottom, we were using the rocks to help level as well as to backfill the form. I changed my strategy subsequently because I figured it was going to take several tons of rocks in order for me to seal the whole bottom of it, and that was probably stupid in the first place. And then I transitioned over to using wood instead. The wood was much easier to fill the gaps, but then I realized, well, I gotta have rocks to backfill it, so I kept the kids working. My German friend kept tossing rocks in from outside the hole, which almost brained me time to do, but that's alright, we're just trying to help. If you look here, my cat has wandered into the form and was taken out by my daughter and just walked straight back in. Platypus cares not for the musings of human beings. He does exactly what he wants to demonstrate. He's probably walking around looking for a place to spray to mark his territory. That's what Spartacus do.
Day 1 is done. Making the form for the concrete pad for the bomb shelter build. Let me show y'all what we've done. So due to the nature of digging this thing down to bedrock, it isn't the smoothest thing on earth. It's not completely level, so we had to dig out several feet of dirt and rock along the edges, especially over there, in order to make sure the dimensions were correct. And due to just the nature of it, I had to add quite a bit of wood along certain sections at the bottom, so that when we pour the concrete, it doesn't just flow out the bottom. What I am going to do is I'm going to take these rocks you see here, and the rocks that we dug out through the excavation process, and line the bottom of it so that once we take the wood off and the foundation is poured, water can drain away from the bottom of the foundation. One of the big reasons I'm making the foundation so thick is A, for obvious reasons, weight support, but B, so that when I put in all the drains and I put in all the rocks and stuff, the water will flow away from it. You'll see that in the coming episodes. It should make sense when it's all done.